So My Hero Academia has a lot of interesting characters, right? But not all of them are in the My Hero 1 Justice series. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today we're doing another episode of the How They Can Work series. In this series, we look at characters that are not My Hero 1 Justice 2, and we try to break them down to create movesets for them, so hopefully one day they will become a playable character. So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about Komori from Class 1B. I think she would be a pretty interesting character. Like, she has a really awesome design, and that would be pretty cool to see in game and stuff, like her design. And I think she has a quirk that would be pretty interesting gameplay wise, and I think she'd be an awesome addition into the game. Also, before we begin, I just want to let you guys know that there are some spoilers from the latest season of the My Hero Academia anime, so just in case you haven't caught up or you haven't seen all the episodes, I just wanted to let you know that there are some spoilers just in case you didn't want to be spoiled. Now with all that out of the way, let's begin the video. So in the My Hero 1's Justice series, each character usually has a normal attack, a red attack or an unblockable, a yellow attack or an armor attack, and they also have a quirk 1, a side quirk 1, a quirk 2, and a side quirk 2, and they also have a plus ultra level 1, 2, and 3. But in this series, we don't look at the normal attack because it's usually just the same punch or kick, and we don't look at the plus ultra level 3 because it's just 3 plus ultra level 1s combined into one big attack. So we only look at the unique things in this series. So yeah, that's how the series works. So let's just dive into this moveset. So Komori's quirk is called Mushroom, and it basically allows her to release spores from her body that grow mushrooms instantly. And an interesting fact about this mushroom quirk is basically she can grow mushrooms anywhere. Like, it doesn't matter like the surface, like she can grow them on the floors, the walls, people, and that's actually pretty interesting. And also the fact that they grow instantly is also pretty interesting, and I try to make an interesting moveset around this quirk, and I think I made a pretty cool one, and we're going to talk about this moveset now. So for quirk 1, I have it labeled Mushroom Strike. This is where she shoots out spores, which creates mushrooms in a circle-like pattern around her, and if the opponent is in the mushrooms, their movement speed is slower, and eventually the mushrooms begin to grow on them. And in the air, she grows some mushrooms on her hands, and basically she knocks the opponent into the ground, which causes a bounce, and when the hit connects, mushrooms will also begin to grow on the opponent. Now you may be asking, what do the mushrooms even do when they are on the opponent? Well, first off, they will cause chip damage over time, and eventually if the opponent doesn't get the mushrooms off, the chip damage will become a stun. So basically, the mushrooms do damage over time, and if you don't get the mushrooms off, they just completely stun the opponent. And now I know what you're asking, how do you get the mushrooms off? Basically, if you're the opponent, you're like, wait, how do I get these off? Because I don't want to get like stuck in a stun. Well, I'll tell you how you remove the mushrooms. So basically, if you're the opponent and you don't want to take any more chip damage, or you're worried about the stun, the way you remove the mushrooms is by troll spinning. Yeah, you have to troll spin to knock the mushrooms off. And I think that would work out, because if you think about it, the animation could be like you're troll spinning for a couple of seconds, and as you're spinning, the mushrooms are kind of like getting knocked off of you. And in my mind, that makes sense. If you spin, you would kind of like throw all the mushrooms off of you. But while you're spinning, you're still technically opened, so, you know, Komori can run up and do a combo on you. So just overall, like, this like move is a trap, but it has like multiple layers, which eventually kind of like turns into like this like fear the opponent has of either getting stunned or gonna have to be left open for a couple of seconds to remove these mushrooms. But I think this is a really cool quirk 1, and I think this works well for Komori. Moving on to her side quirk 1, I have it labeled Shroom Shove. This is where she grows some mushrooms on her hand, and she basically kind of like dashes at the opponent in like a straight line and kind of pushes them away, which is good to end the combo because she pushes them so far away you can't follow up afterwards. So basically it's good to end the combo, and it does good damage. So basically it's one of those moves. And when the attack connects also, some mushrooms begin to grow on the opponent as well, and then basically you go back to that same kind of like fear with the mushrooms growing on the opponent. You have to like worry about the chip damage, and then it eventually will turn into a stun unless you leave yourself open for a couple seconds and troll spin. So again, that fear is still present with the mushrooms growing on the opponent and stuff, but that's also just like a little bonus this move gets. So yeah, this move is kind of just used to end the combo, but also maybe to like close some distance because she runs in a straight line. And again, you do get that bonus with the mushrooms and stuff. So in my opinion, I think this is a pretty good side quirk 1. Moving on to her quirk 2, I have it labeled Shroom. This is where she releases spores from her body in all different directions, and the animation for the spores would be like this mist or smoke-like effect. So if the opponent is near her when she does this attack, the mushrooms will begin to grow on them, which again leads back to the chip damage and the stun and kind of just the fear of the mushrooms. And basically, yeah, that's the kind of move. It's kind of like a counterattack that is not really a counterattack, because you don't have to get hit for this move. You can just release it anytime you want. But basically, you have to remember though, when she releases these like spores and stuff, mushrooms begin to grow on them, but they don't stop the opponent, you know, like they can just run through the mist and then kind of combo on you, but because they ran through the mist and stuff, they have the mushrooms on them now, which still does chip damage and stuff, but the chip damage doesn't stop them. So it's kind of like a weird counter attack. So it's kind of like, you know, you can still get hit even though you release the spores and stuff, but now they have the mushrooms on them, so they have to worry about either the stun or troll spinning and leaving themselves open for a couple of seconds to knock off the mushrooms and stuff. But again, I think it's a cool quirk too. It's kind of like a counter and stuff, but not really. And I think it's an interesting move. Moving on to her side quirk 2, I have it labeled Grow Strong. This is where she uses her spray gun to kind of like release a mist of humidity in a certain direction. And if she does her quirk 1 after the mist of humidity is on the field, the mushrooms will grow in kind of like a straight line heading towards the mist rather than like in a circle like pattern, because again, with her quirk 1, she lays out like a trap that's like in a circle like pattern. But if she does this move first and then that move, the mushrooms will head towards the humidity and kind of like go out in like a straight line, which is, you know, pretty cool because it changes up like that move and basically changes up her play style or like her trap style, because again, she releases like traps and stuff like that. So instead of it being like a circle like trap, you can actually send the trap towards the opponent, which is pretty cool. Another bonus with this attack is basically if she fires the mist of humidity and she walks through it for a couple of seconds, she'll have like this particle effect on her. And then if you do her quirk 2, the spores that she releases off of her body, like that mist that she releases off of her body, will shoot out further, basically kind of like increasing the range of that attack. So basically this move is kind of like a booster to some of her other quirk specials, where like it's a booster to her quirk 1 because she can now change up like her traps and stuff like that. Instead of just having like circle traps on the field, she can have you know, a trap that heads straight towards the opponent if she fires like the humidity mist in a certain way, because again, the mushrooms will follow the mist in like a straight line. So that's pretty cool. Or she can walk through it and get that bonus with her quirk 2, and basically now she has that particle effect, and basically the mist of spores she releases off of her body will shoot out further, basically increasing the range. So that counterattack, or that semi counterattack, has like an increase of range now. So overall, I think this is a pretty good side quirk too, because it just helps her boost her other attacks and stuff, and kind of like changes up her playstyle a little bit too. And moving on to her red and yellow attack. For her red attack, I have it where she kind of like just does like a headbutt, and for her yellow attack, I have it where she does like a little spin. I know these moves may not seem all that interesting, but like I think these moves kind of like fit her. Like I can see her doing like a little spin with like her yellow attack and stuff, where she like would put out her arms maybe. And for a red attack, I can see like a headbutt, because, you know, with her like hero costume at least, it would look pretty cool with her like mushroom hat on. I think that would be a pretty cool red and yellow attack, and I definitely think they fit her. Moving on to her level 1, I have it where she releases spores and creates mushrooms that cover a large majority of the map. That's basically it. It may not seem all that interesting, but I think it's actually a really cool level 1 for a couple of reasons. Even though it doesn't cover the whole field, you can use her normal trap to cover the rest of it basically, and that already lowers the movement speed of the opponent. And also it has mushrooms that grow on the opponent, because again, like the mushrooms grow on the opponent if they're in the trap for too long, and that's already free chip damage and eventually probably a free stun, because even if they start troll spinning to knock the mushrooms off, they're still in a huge trap that covers like a majority of the field. So if they walk anywhere, the mushrooms just grow back on them, and there's even more chip damage, and then they're pretty much just going to get stunned in this level 1 no matter what they do. So at first it may not seem like anything, because it doesn't do like one big flashy attack that does like a ton of damage. It just does like a lot of damage over time that's pretty much unavoidable to like the opponent. So like even if you're blocking, like you're still going to get the mushrooms growing on you, which is free chip damage and stuff. So I think this is a cool level 1, because it's just a huge trap for Komori, and that's why I think it's a cool level 1. And moving on to her level 2 animation, I have it where the animation would begin with Komori releasing spores all over that turn into mushrooms that would begin to surround the opponent. The camera would then cut to the opponent, who is now looking around at all the mushrooms growing around them, limiting their walking space, and then they would realize that some mushrooms are growing on them. The opponent would then try to knock off the mushrooms as they keep regrowing on them, and as they're doing that, Komori would jump around the opponent, hitting them with mushrooms on her hands multiple times. So basically she would have like this like punch with like mushrooms on her hands, and she would do it multiple times, jumping around them. And then Komori would then back off, and she would begin to fire her spray guns to release humidity on the mushrooms growing on the now dazed opponent, because they just got hit multiple times in like the face and like the stomach and stuff by Komori, who was jumping around them. And the mushrooms would then begin to grow faster to the point where they almost completely covered the opponent, like how it looked in the anime when she kind of like covered Hagakure mushrooms, just not up to like that point, just almost to that point. the camera would then cut to the opponent who is now coughing, and basically they would drop to like the ground as more mushrooms begin to grow on them. And then the camera would then cut to like a first person shot from the opponent who would look up at Komori, who is walking to them with like the face she made in like the anime. And as the opponent looks up at her, mushrooms would then grow over the camera, and that would finish the level 2 animation. So I think this level 2 is pretty cool to see because we get like a first person shot in it, and also it's kind of like an Easter egg to like the anime, because like with the mushrooms growing over the camera, that actually happened in the anime, like during the joint training arc. Also, the kind of like look with like all the mushrooms almost completely covering the opponent, like how it looked when she covered Hagakure, is also another like little Easter egg. And also the face she makes towards like the end of the level 2 animation is like another little Easter egg to the anime, because that's like the same face she made in the anime when she was fighting Tokuyami. So overall, I think it's a cool level 2 because of all the little Easter eggs and stuff, but also just a cool one to see in the game, and that's why I think it's a cool level 2. So that is my moveset for Komori. I definitely think she would be a really interesting character. I think she would rely a lot on her traps and basically getting that chip damage from the mushrooms and stuff to do like big damage and stuff. But I also think that kind of like fear that the opponent will have of the mushrooms, and kind of like worrying about that free stun or leaving themselves open for a couple of seconds of troll spin, would be really good for Komori, because, you know, that way the opponent is worried about them and stuff, so she can use that to her advantage to get in and do a combo and stuff. And just overall, I think she'd be a really cool character with like a really interesting play style and stuff, and just overall a really cool character, and I would love to see her come to the game. But if you guys would like to see a specific character in this series, let me know down in the comments below. I'd be happy to try to create a moveset for that character. And if you guys did enjoy, please like and subscribe. That would be amazing. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time. Later.